Hello, WWE fans, and welcome to the Wrestling Universe. I need to get into the habit of saying that. But anyways, welcome to the Rest of the Universe for our first review of 2019, where we're going to take a look at this year's WWE Royal Rumble. The road to WrestleMania 35 has officially begun. We are now officially 69 days away from WrestleMania from the time of this recording, because of course, we are now 69 days away till WWE returns to MetLife Stadium for this year's WrestleMania for its 35th edition. Now, so let's go through all the matches that took place in this year's Royal Rumble, obviously going through the kickoff matches to start with. The Raw Tag Team Championships were on the line first, where Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, who are the current Raw Tag Champions, would take on one member each we have a member of the Authors of Pain, which is Reza, and then we have a member of the Revival, who is Scott Dawson. So it's a bit of a weird scenario, but apparently this is what happened during the tag match. And of course, that led to Bobby Roode and Chad Gable to retain the Raw Tag titles. So they're obviously, at the moment, they're looking like they're going to be participating at WrestleMania for the Raw Tag Team Championships, unless something happens between now and WrestleMania, where maybe they end up losing the Raw Tag titles to maybe the Revival or something. But mind you, though, we are expecting a Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn return at some point, even though they haven't returned to the Royal Rumble. It begs the question, whether they're going to be potentially coming back. I suppose we'll have to keep our eyes peeled on when WWE are finally going to pull the trigger and bring them back to our screens, which it begs the question, when will that be? Anyway, so that is the results of the Raw Tag titles. Bobby Roode and Chad Gable retaining the titles at the Royal Rumble. And then we would have Rusev, who recently won the United States title at the end of last year, would end up defending the title against Shinsuke Nakamura, who is looking to win the US title for the second time. And, well, this was kind of a given. Shinsuke Nakamura managed to defeat Rusev and finally win back his United States title, making it the second time in his career that he has won the United States Championship, as he finally reclaimed the United States title, as he is looking to head to WrestleMania with the US Championship around his waist, which it'll be interesting to see who Shinsuke Nakamura is going to face. I would assume there hasn't really been a sort of a clear opponent for Shinsuke Nakamura at this moment in time, but in fact, I even read online that there's been some discussions behind the scenes about a multi-person ladder match for the United States title, which I think would be really interesting if WWE were to bring back the multi-person ladder match for the United States title. Let me know in the comments section, would you like to see the multi-person ladder match return for this United States Championship at WrestleMania, or would you like Shinsuke Nakamura to have a one-on-one match for the United States title at WrestleMania? I think a multi-person ladder match seems to be the best option here because, well, technically because of the fact there isn't many single competitors right now who are not really sort of at the level of wanting to win the US title at this point, unless they throw in some potential contenders, then that would really help elevate the title at this point. Anyway, so that is basically the results of the United States Championship match at the Royal Rumble. Shinsuke Nakamura becoming a two-time champion following his victory against Rusev. And then finally, we would have the Fatal 4-Way match for the Cruiserweight Championship, where Buddy Murphy, who, by the way, is Alexa Bliss's boyfriend, would take on Kalisto along with Toswan and also Hindu Atomi in the Fatal 4-Way match. And, of course, Buddy Murphy manages to survive the odds of the Fatal 4-Way match and still remaining the Cruiserweight champion heading into the road to Elimination Chamber. So, yes, Alexa Bliss's man has remained Cruiserweight champion on the road to Elimination Chamber. It should be very interesting to see if he does make it to WrestleMania as Cruiserweight champion. Will certainly be very interesting to look at. Anyway, heading into the main show of the Royal Rumble, we have the SmackDown Women's title match where Becky Lynch would take on Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship, the woman who took Becky Lynch's title from her during that TLC match at the end of last year. And, of course, Asuka would end up defeating Becky Lynch, remaining SmackDown Women's Champion. So it looks as though Asuka is going to be taking the title with her at WrestleMania. It'll be interesting to see, however, who Asuka is going to meet at WrestleMania, because a lot of people are debating at this time of who should be the right opponent for Asuka at WrestleMania. Many people suggest that Nikki Cross could be one of those potential contenders here, which I think it will be very interesting if they do go ahead with the Nikki Cross-Asuka match for WrestleMania, but I guess we'll see what WWE have got planned for her moving forward. However, though, this will not be the end of Becky Lynch, and you'll see why in a short while. Anyway, moving on to our next match, which is the SmackDown Tag Titles match, The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro taking on Shane McMahon and The Miz, which I have to say, this whole Shane McMahon and Miz stuff is quite interesting to look at because, you know, I mean, no one could really imagine that The Miz would become a goodie along with Shane McMahon, but hey-ho, I mean, he's certainly impressed a lot of people with this chemistry that's going on, and of course that led to a victory between The Miz and Shane McMahon, who would end up becoming the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions as they finally defeat The Bar and win the SmackDown Tag Titles at the Royal Rumble. It should be very interesting. Again, it'll be interesting to see what will happen with The Miz and Shane. Will Shane McMahon still be partners with The Miz heading into WrestleMania? Or could we see a Shane McMahon heel turn on The Miz? I mean, who knows what they could be doing with these two heading into WrestleMania? Maybe they'll remain a team heading into WrestleMania. Who knows? But again, it's one of those situations that we don't really know where they're heading with this one. But I guess we shall see as the year progresses, I guess. Anyway, so then of course we come to the next matchup, which is for the Raw Women's Championship, where we would see the Ronda Rousey versus Sasha Banks battle. And, of course, Sasha Banks did put out all the stops, but it was probably not enough to defeat Ronda Rousey because Ronda Rousey managed to get a pinfall victory on Sasha Banks, coming out and remaining the Raw Women's Champion as she remains strong heading into the road to WrestleMania, as Ronda Rousey remains as the champion at this year's WrestleMania event, which is kind of saying something. So there you go. That was Ronda Rousey's battle with Sasha Banks, and she finally obviously overcame the battle with the boss and remained the Raw Women's Champion. But of course, at the end of the match, we saw the signature of the Four Horsewomen from Sasha at the end of the match, which again seems to tease the whole Four Horsewomen versus Four Horsewomen battle that could potentially happen in WWE in the non-distant future, which who knows when will WWE plan to do it? I guess we'll see when time moves on, and we'll see where WWE goes with this idea. And then, of course, we come to the 30 Women Royal Rumble match, the second ever 30 Women Royal Rumble match. Of course, there was a lot of potential here where we would have big names like Charlotte. In fact, going through the order of who entered in what order, in case you're curious about who actually entered in what order here. So the first person was Lacey Evans, who recently got brought up into Monday Night Raw and SmackDown recently. We have Natalya, we had Mandy Rose, we had Liv Morgan, Mickie James, Ember Moon, Billie Kay, Nikki Cross, Peyton Royce, Tamina, X.A. Lauren, Sarah Logan, Charlotte Flair, Kerry Son from NXT, Maria, who also appeared in the Rumble match, Naomi, Candice LeRae, who, by the way, is Johnny Gargaro's wife, obviously, Alicia Fox. We have Casey Casor, who's from the NXT UK, Ciara Vergan, Ruby Riott, Dana Brooke, And and we've also had Alexa Bliss in there, Sonya Dolova, Ray Reaper, who I believe is also another name from the UK's NXT. And then we have Io Shia, we have Bayley, Nia Jax, Carmella, and of course, in the place of Lana, we have Becky Lynch. Yes, Becky Lynch took over Lana's position, which of course there are videos of Lana being really upset by the fact that she lost her position in the Royal Rumble match because, well, it looks as though that she had a bit of an injury whilst coming down from the obviously Becky Lynch would take down Lana for a moment, and then of course that would lead to Becky Lynch finally getting entered into the Rumble match, and then eventually she would end up eliminating Charlotte, and this would then lead to a battle where Becky Lynch would finally win the Women's Royal Rumble match. Yes, Becky Lynch ends up heading onto the road to WrestleMania. She has now got herself a main event match at WrestleMania to challenge for any women's title, whether that is the SmackDown Women's title or the Raw Women's Championship. But a lot of people are suspecting that tonight she's going to debut on Raw to challenge for Ronda Rousey's title, which I know a lot of people really want this to happen. They really want Becky Lynch to show up on Raw just to challenge her, which if she does it, then good on her. I'm glad she's finally taken the opportunity to come to Monday Night Raw to do this. But again, it will remain to see if Becky Lynch will show up on Raw to challenge Ronda Rousey for a match at WrestleMania. If that does happen, then this is definitely going to be somewhat of an amazing moment that could happen on Raw tonight that could blow the internet if it does happen. So we shall see. We shall see what Becky Lynch's intentions are when it comes to tonight. Will she show up? Will she not? I suppose it will all come down to what goes on the night. So there you go. Becky Lynch, this year's Rumble winner for the women. Pretty good stuff for Becky Lynch. She's on the road to WrestleMania. Let's hope she bags herself a win. Anyway, and then we would go on to the WWE Championship match where the new Daniel Bryan would take on AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. Of course, AJ Styles was on the roll until Eric Rowan would end up surprisingly making his return to WWE, attacking AJ Styles, helping Daniel Bryan retain the WWE Championship, which begs the question, could Eric Rowan be helping Daniel Bryan? Could Eric Rowan and Daniel Bryan finally be on the same page after, obviously knowing the past that Eric Rowan and Daniel Bryan were not really friends in the past because, of course, he was a part of the Wyatt family when Daniel Bryan was becoming a big household name. So, it's really interesting that Eric Rowan would help Daniel Bryan. What does this mean for AJ Styles when it comes to the WWE Championship? I would assume this is him out of the WWE title picture, so it'll be interesting to see who Daniel Bryan meets at Elimination Chamber. I suppose we'll find out on SmackDown what's next for Daniel Bryan on the road to WrestleMania. And then, of course, we have the Universal Championship match, Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar. Could Finn Balor finally slay the Beast? Well, I think we kind of all know what to expect from Brock Lesnar, don't we? It's not going to be good news. It's going to be bad news. In other words, Brock Lesnar conquers another victim. In other words, he has beaten Finn Balor to remain Universal Champion on the road to WrestleMania, which basically sums up what everyone's thinking at this point is, okay, it looks as though Brock Lesnar's not going to be slayed until WrestleMania, which sounds pretty much right to me. I think we're looking at Brock Lesnar remaining champion until WrestleMania, and then someone ends up finally dethroning Brock Lesnar as the Universal Champion come WrestleMania. So we shall see. We shall see what happens. Anyway. And then, of course, the main event was the men's Royal Rumble match, which had a couple of surprises on its own, funny enough. So let's take a look at some of the entries in this year's Men Royal Rumble. So we have Eliza, who obviously loves to sing. He was the #1 entry. We have Jeff Jarrett, who came back. Yes, good old Jeff J, Double J, finally made his return to WWE to participate in the Rumble match. Shinsuke Nakamura, Kurt Angle. Yes, Kurt Angle made a comeback. Big E, Johnny Gargano. Can you believe it? He was in the Rumble match. Jinder Mahal, Samoa Joe, Kurt Hawkins, Seth Rollins, Tyrus O'Neil, Kofi Kingston, Mustaine Oliver, Dean Ambrose, No Way Jose, Drew McIntyre, Xavier Wood, Pete Dunne, the UK's champion. He showed up. As Ronde, he was in there. Apollo Crews, Aleister Black, former NXT champion, was in the Rumble match. Shelton Benjamin made a return. Baron Corbin, Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman came back after being taken out of the Universal title match. Dolph Ziggler showed up to enter the Rumble, Randy Orton, and of course, this was a bit of an unexpected move, but Nia Jax even took out R-Truth to become the number 30 entrance. Now, can you believe that? Can you believe that Nia Jax actually took it upon herself to take R-Truth out of the Royal Rumble match, which would lead to R-Truth basically being injured from the match, and then basically Nia Jax would end up taking the spot of the Royal Rumble. Man, that was just amazing. Just to think that we finally got to see Nia Jax joining the men in the Royal Rumble match. That was just huge. That was huge in some aspects. It was just amazing. However, though, the man of the hour, the guy who came out on top, was, of course, the architect, the Kingslayer himself, Seth Rollins, would end up winning the 30-man Royal Rumble. And it's kind of funny to think about it because, well, it was pretty much a year ago, I think it was just before WrestleMania 34, they interviewed Seth Rollins, leading up to the Intercontinental Championship triple threat match, and they asked him, like, what was his future goals, and he talked about, one of his goals was the Intercontinental Championship, but another goal he had was to win the Royal Rumble match to earn himself a world's title match. And how coincidental is, ever since that quote, he has now won the Royal Rumble match. Is it a coincidence now, the fact that he brought up he wanted to win the Royal Rumble and then 1 year later he ends up winning it? To me, I think this was kind of being one of those plans that Mr. McMahon had in his eyesight, was the fact that he always wanted to try and get Seth Rollins to at least win a Royal Rumble at some point. And I think this was kind of one of those gimmicks that we knew was going to happen. It's just a question of when. And the fact that it happened now obviously seems to suggest that, okay, Mr. McMahon and WWE are relying on Seth Rollins to be the guy to hopefully slay Brock Lesnar if he does choose Brock Lesnar as his opponent, which it seems to suggest we're looking at a Seth Rollins-Brock Lesnar main event, Universal title match, which may suggest that we'll finally may get to see Seth Rollins finally beat Brock Lesnar by pinfall or submission, or however he's going to do it. It's going to be super amazing to watch. Now, this is pretty cool. So finally, Seth Rollins finally gets a Royal Rumble win in his career, and he finally gets a opportunity to battle for either the Universal or the WWE Championship, depending on where he goes from here. And I would imagine one of the matches, the match he'll probably most likely choose is probably the Universal title, given the fact that he would want to, beat Brock Lesnar in somehow, some way. So, let me know in the comment section, would you like to see a Seth Rollins-Brock Lesnar matchup at WrestleMania? Do you want these two to finally go at it at WrestleMania again? We'll finally, in a one-on-one, actually meet one-on-one and not with Seth Rollins having to steal a title from Lesnar. I mean, this will be pretty interesting. Pretty interesting to see what happens. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my upcoming reviews of NXT TakeOver and NXT UK TakeOver. So see you then.